Welcome to Life Stories Network. Today's story is one that hits deep, about family, pride, and the kind of love that sometimes feels like manipulation. I never thought money could change how my mom looked at me. Growing up, we didn't have much. My dad left when I was 10, and Mom raised me and my younger brother Kyle all on her own. She worked 2 jobs, barely slept, and always reminded us that family is all we have. Those words used to comfort me, until the day they became her weapon. When I finally landed my dream job in tech, I felt like I was giving back everything she had sacrificed. I remember calling her the day I got the offer. I was so excited I could barely breathe. She cried on the phone, said she was proud, said I'd made it. I didn't know that phone call would later turn into a nightmare. For the first year, I didn't tell her how much I made. I was trying to stay grounded, pay my debts, and set aside something for the future. She'd ask sometimes, casually, like moms do. I'd joke and say, "Enough to keep the lights on." She'd laugh and let it go. Or so I thought. One Sunday afternoon, she came over unannounced, which wasn't unusual. But this time she wasn't alone. Kyle was with her, wearing his usual lazy grin, oversized hoodie, and that look of entitlement he never seemed to outgrow. Mom was dressed up, hair done, makeup on. The kind of look she wore when she meant business. I didn't know it yet, but that day she had a plan. She sat down on my couch like she owned the place and looked around. "Nice apartment, honey," she said, her voice sweet but sharp. Kyle kicked off his shoes and grabbed a soda from my fridge without asking. I tried to smile, tried to pretend this was normal, but my gut told me something was off. Then she said it. "I heard you're making 6 figures now." My heart dropped. I froze. I didn't know how she found out, but the tone in her voice told me this wasn't a casual conversation. It was an ambush. I laughed it off, but she didn't. Her eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me, Ryan. I know exactly how much you make. Your company posts salary bands online." I felt cornered. She wasn't wrong. But hearing her say it out loud felt invasive, like she'd broken into a part of my life I wanted to keep private. Before I could respond, Kyle jumped in. "That's awesome, man. You could totally help Mom out now. She's been struggling, you know." Struggling. That word stung. She wasn't struggling anymore. Her mortgage was paid off last year, by me. I'd been sending her money every month since I got the job. I helped with repairs, bought her groceries, even paid for Kyle's college tuition when he dropped out the first time. But apparently that wasn't enough. Mom crossed her legs and leaned forward. "I think it's only fair that you contribute a bit more now. Kyle's still finding his path, and with the economy, it's hard. We were thinking around $4,500 a month." The words hit like a slap. Not "can you help?" Or, "if you're able." Just a statement, a demand. I looked at her, hoping she was joking. She wasn't. She sat there calmly, as if this was a business meeting. Kyle was nodding beside her like an investor agreeing to terms. "Mom," I said slowly. "That's a lot of money." She shrugged. "Not for someone like you. You make more than that in a week." It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about control. I tried to explain my expenses, my savings goals, my plans to maybe buy a house someday. She didn't care. To her, I was being selfish. "You're forgetting where you came from," she said, voice trembling. "Everything you have I made possible. I raised you. I sacrificed for you. Now it's your turn to sacrifice for this family." The guilt landed heavy, like a familiar blanket I'd been wrapped in my whole life. She knew exactly which words would crush me. Kyle chimed in again. "Come on, bro. Don't be greedy. I've been thinking of starting a business. This could really help us all. Us, not him. Us." I looked between them and felt something inside me shift. The house I had worked so hard for suddenly felt small, crowded by entitlement. I took a deep breath. I already help, Mom, but I can't give you that much every month. Her face changed. The warmth drained away. What replaced it was something I'd never seen before. Disappointment mixed with disgust. So now you're too good for your family? She snapped. Money's changed you. That line cut deeper than I expected. I wanted to yell, to remind her of all the times I'd helped, but the words got stuck. Kyle smirked. Guess we know who the favorite child really is. Himself. Mom stood up, grabbed her purse, and said coldly, You'll regret this. Family always comes first, Ryan. Always. When they left, the silence in the apartment was loud. I sat there staring at the half-empty soda can Kyle had left on the counter, wondering how everything got twisted. For days, she didn't answer my calls. The guilt ate at me. Maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe I should have offered something. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about helping. It was about control, power, and the way money can expose people's true intentions. A week later, I got a call from my aunt. Ryan, she said, your mom's been telling people you've cut her off. She's saying you abandoned her after getting rich. The words made me sick. I felt anger bubbling in my chest. After everything I'd done, now I was the villain. I drove to her house that night. The lights were on. Kyle's car was in the driveway. When she opened the door, her expression was cold. I tried to explain, to make her see that I wasn't abandoning her. I told her I loved her, that I'd always help when needed, just not be her ATM. She didn't want to hear it. You're selfish, she said. You think because you make a little money, you're better than us. Kyle stood behind her, arms crossed, smirking again. He didn't say a word, he didn't have to. His silence was approval. That night, I left her house with a kind of pain I'd never felt before. Not heartbreak, not anger, something colder. The realization that I was finally seeing my family for who they really were. Days turned into weeks. She didn't call. Holidays came and went. I sent her gifts, but they came back unopened. The silence stretched, growing heavier. Then one evening, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, just my name. Inside was a handwritten note in my mom's handwriting. Family helps family. $4,500 by the 5th. No greeting. No signature. Just that. I laughed at first, thinking it had to be a joke. But then came the text from Kyle. You'll pay sooner or later, bro. Don't forget where you came from. That was when I knew. This wasn't about love anymore. This was a shakedown, and it wasn't going to stop until I made it stop. I didn't know then that standing my ground would destroy whatever was left of my family and change my life forever. I didn't sleep much that week. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that note again. My mom's handwriting, cold and businesslike, turning blood into currency. I'd read it so many times I knew every curve of the letters. It didn't feel real, but it was. I told myself I wouldn't respond, that I'd hold my ground. But ignoring her didn't stop the guilt. It just changed its shape. I started replaying old memories. Mom packing my lunches, cheering at my high school graduation, crying when I left for college. For a moment, I'd think she's not like this. She's just stressed. But then I'd remember her face when she demanded that money, and the illusion would break all over again. A few days later, I got another surprise. My HR department called. Someone had tried to access my payroll information using my employee ID. The attempt failed, but they flagged it as suspicious. When I asked if they could tell who it was, the rep said, "It came from an IP near your hometown." My stomach dropped. There was only one person who'd go that far. I called Mom. No answer. I called Kyle. He picked up, chewing something loud in my ear. "Yo," he said, casual, like nothing was wrong. I didn't waste time. "Did you or Mom try to log into my work account?" He laughed. "Man, you're paranoid." "Why would we do that?" "Because someone did." and the system traced it back to your town. Bro, chill, he said, dragging out the word. Maybe someone else did. You're acting like we're criminals. Did you do it, Kyle? He paused for a beat too long. Then, you make a lot of money, man. You could have just helped out instead of making this a big deal. Click. He hung up. That was the moment I realized how far this had gone. It wasn't a family argument anymore. It was a game of leverage. Over the next few weeks, the calls started coming from unknown numbers. Some were silent. Some were friends of Mom's guilt-tripping me. She's just hurt, they'd say. You should talk to her. Others were worse. Fake threats about lawsuits, debts owed, and even someone claiming to be from the county office saying I needed to settle a family payment dispute. It was ridiculous. Then came the message that broke me. It was a photo of Mom sitting on the front porch holding an eviction notice. Underneath, Kyle had texted, "Hope you're happy." I drove there the next morning. My chest felt tight the whole way. I didn't know if I was angry or scared or both. When I pulled into the driveway, Kyle's car was gone, but Mom was there. She looked older. The strong, fiery woman I grew up with had been replaced by someone tired, desperate. She didn't even look surprised to see me. "Did you fake that eviction notice?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she motioned for me to sit. I didn't. "Ryan," she said softly, "you've changed." "Stop," I said. "Don't do that. I didn't come here to argue. I came because you're trying to manipulate me. Again." Her face hardened. "You think I want this? I'm your mother. I just want to keep this family together. But Kyle's struggling, and you have the means to help." "Mom," I said, "I've been helping. I've paid for repairs, bills, tuition, everything. But this demand for $4,500 a month, it's not help. It's control." She sighed, eyes glistening. "You don't understand what it's like to have nothing." That sentence burned. I understood all too well. I lived through the same poverty she did. I'd just refused to stay there. Then she said something that knocked the air out of me. "You think you made it on your own? You wouldn't have gone to college without me. You wouldn't have survived without me. So yes, I deserve a share. It wasn't just entitlement now, it was ownership." She really believed she had a claim on my life. "Mom," I whispered, "you don't deserve my income. You deserve my love. But you're throwing even that away." Her eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the kind that begged for forgiveness. They were the kind that dared me to feel guilty. "I'm your mother," she said, her voice breaking. "And mothers deserve respect. Respect." That word hit me harder than any insult could. Because that's what I'd been giving her my whole life. Respect, obedience, loyalty. And somehow it was never enough. I left that house with shaking hands. I didn't slam the door, didn't shout. I just walked out because I knew that arguing was useless. For a while, things went quiet. Weeks passed. I focused on work, avoided social media, kept to myself. I thought maybe the storm had passed. Then one afternoon, a notification popped up on my phone. It was a Facebook tag. Mom had posted a long, emotional status about ungrateful children who forget who raised them. My name wasn't there, but everyone knew who she meant. The comments were brutal. Friends, neighbors, even some old family members piling on. "You'll regret turning your back on your mother," one said. "Money makes people heartless," said another. I sat there scrolling through hundreds of comments, realizing I'd lost not just my mother, but my reputation among everyone I grew up with. I wanted to respond, to defend myself, but I didn't. Because every word would feed the story she'd built. The one where she's the victim and I'm the greedy, cold son. But then Kyle took it further. He made a TikTok. A dramatic video showing Mom crying, set to sad music, talking about how family betrayed her, It got thousands of views. I saw strangers calling me trash, fake rich kid, and disgrace. That night I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling wondering how it came to this. I decided to talk to a lawyer just to understand what I could do if this continued. The attorney listened quietly, then said, "Ryan, you're dealing with financial harassment. You need to protect yourself." It felt strange hearing those words. Protect yourself from your own family. I changed my number, locked down my accounts, and even moved to a new apartment closer to work. For a while, the silence felt like peace, until Kyle showed up at my building. It was a Friday evening. I was coming home with groceries when I saw him leaning against the lobby wall, wearing that same smug grin. "Hey, bro," he said like nothing had happened. "Got a minute?" I didn't answer. I just walked past him toward the elevator. He followed. "Mom's sick," he said. "Hospital bills are piling up. You really gonna ignore that?" I stopped, turned. "What hospital?" He hesitated. Mercy General," I called his bluff. "That hospital closed 2 years ago." He didn't even flinch. Just shrugged. "Fine, she's not there. But she is sick, man. Stress and all. You're killing her." That line, "You're killing her," echoed in my head long after he left. Because it was exactly what Mom used to say when I disappointed her as a kid. Same tone, same manipulation. A few days later, I got an email from an unknown address. No message, just an attachment. It was a PDF of a contract. It read, "Monthly family support agreement, $4,500, non-negotiable." At the bottom, it had Mom's signature. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was no longer emotional manipulation. It was organized. I forwarded it to my lawyer, who told me to keep records of everything. "If this escalates," he said, "you'll need proof." That was the first time I realized my family wasn't just emotionally toxic. They were dangerous. Weeks went by. I tried to move on. I stopped checking social media, avoided my hometown, and poured myself into work. But no matter how much I tried, the guilt stayed. I'd see other people talking about their moms, birthday dinners, family trips, and I'd feel this emptiness I couldn't shake. I missed her. I missed before. Then one night, around midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I answered, half asleep. It was Mom. Her voice was quiet, weak. "Ryan," she said, "can we talk?" My chest tightened. It had been months since I'd heard her voice. I didn't know if this was another trap or something real. "Yeah," I said softly. "We can talk." There was a pause. I could hear her breathing. Then she whispered, "I need help." I didn't ask what kind. I just said, "I'm coming." Because despite everything, the guilt, the anger, the lies, she was still my mom. I didn't know what kind of help she meant. But I was about to find out that sometimes love doesn't just blind you. It makes you walk straight back into the fire you escaped. When I got to her house that night, everything was quiet. The porch light was off. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. I stood there for a moment, wondering if I'd made a mistake coming back. But then I saw her through the window, sitting alone in the living room, a dim lamp casting her shadow on the wall. She looked smaller than I remembered. Fragile. The woman who once ruled the house with sheer presence now looked like she was sinking into it. I knocked softly. She turned, and for a moment her face flickered between relief and guilt. "Ryan," she said, almost in a whisper. I stepped inside. The place smelled like dust and lavender. Same old curtains, same old couch. But everything else felt quieter. She motioned for me to sit. I didn't. I just stood there waiting for her to speak. She finally said, "I wasn't lying. I really do need help." I looked at her, trying to read between the lines. "What kind of help, Mom?" Her eyes darted away. "The bills." The house. It's all too much, I sighed. You told everyone I abandoned you. She flinched, then straightened her shoulders. I was angry. You humiliated me. People talk, Ryan. You wouldn't understand what it's like to feel replaced. Replaced? I said, confused. She nodded. By your success. By your independence. You built a life without me. I felt like I didn't matter anymore. Her words landed like a punch. I wasn't expecting honesty. I'd been bracing for another guilt trip, but this time, it sounded real. Mom, I said quietly, you always mattered. I just needed to live my own life. Her eyes filled with tears. Then why does it feel like you left me behind? I didn't have an answer. Maybe I had left her behind in a way. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't keep carrying the weight of her expectations. I didn't leave you, I said finally. I just stopped letting guilt make my decisions. She nodded slowly, like she understood, even if she didn't like it. Then she said something I didn't expect. Kyle told me you hate me. I shook my head. I never said that. I hate what's happened between us. That's not the same thing. Her lips trembled. He told me you said I was dead to you. My stomach twisted. He what? She hesitated, then whispered. He showed me a text. That was when it hit me. Kyle had been feeding her lies, stoking the fire the whole time. He wasn't just tagging along, he was orchestrating it. Mom, I said, I never sent that text. You can check my phone. She looked uncertain. He showed me screenshots. I took my phone out, scrolled through our messages, and handed it to her. Look, nothing like that exists. She stared at the screen for a long time. Her hands shook. When she finally looked up, her face changed, like a fog had lifted. He lied, she whispered. Yeah, I said softly. He did. She sank back on the couch, tears spilling down her cheeks. He told me you cut me off, that you were ashamed of us. I believed him. I sat down across from her. For the first time in years, the silence between us didn't feel like a war zone. It felt like grief. We talked for hours. About everything. About the years I'd been sending money. About how Kyle had been taking it from her under the guise of helping with bills. About how he'd twisted every act of kindness into resentment. By the time she finished talking, I realized she wasn't the enemy. She was lost, pulled into a lie that made her see me as the villain. Where's Kyle now? I asked. She wiped her eyes. He stopped coming around after I confronted him last week. Took some of my jewelry, too. My heart sank. Mom, you have to report that. She shook her head. He's my son. I understood. Love blinds even the ones who've been hurt most. A few days later, she agreed to let me help her sort out her finances. Properly this time. I called the bank, fixed her accounts, changed her passwords, and set up a plan that didn't involve sending anyone cash. For the first time, she didn't argue. She just listened. As we went through the papers, I found letters Kyle had written to her. Exaggerated stories about me, forgetting family, refusing to help, even mocking her behind her back. They were manipulative, dramatic, and cruel. I realized then that Kyle had been jealous all along. Of my job, my stability, even the small things like being able to afford dinner without worry. He wanted the life I built, but not the work that came with it. It hurt, but it also made sense. He'd found his power in playing us against each other. When I left that day, Mom hugged me. Really hugged me. The kind of hug that felt like the old days. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. I'm sorry too, I replied. We both got lost. For a few months, things were calm. We talked every week. She even visited me once, bringing cookies like she used to when I was a kid. I thought maybe the worst was behind us. Then one afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number again. This time it was the police. They'd arrested Kyle. Fraud charges. He'd been using Mom's name to open credit lines and rack up debt. When I told her, she didn't cry. She just closed her eyes and whispered, "I knew it would come to this." I sat with her that night at the kitchen table. She didn't talk much, just kept looking at a photo of the three of us, me, her, and Kyle, from when we were kids. "I failed him," she said softly. "No," I said. "You did your best. He made his choices." She nodded, but I could see she didn't believe it. The court case dragged on for months. I went with her every time, even when she told me not to. Kyle wouldn't look at us in the courtroom. When the sentence was read, he didn't even blink. Afterward, Mom and I sat in the car. The silence was unbearable. She finally said, "Do you think he hates me?" "No," I said. "I think he hates himself." We drove home without saying much else. That night, she cooked dinner for the first time in ages. We ate quietly, but something about the peace felt new. Real. Months passed. I helped her sell the old house and move into a smaller apartment closer to me. It wasn't easy, but it was a fresh start. One evening, we were sitting on her balcony watching the sunset when she said, "You know, I used to dream that both my boys would make it big. I didn't realize success isn't about money. It's about peace," I smiled. Took me a while to learn that too. She looked at me for a long time, then said, "You have a good heart, Ryan. I just wish I hadn't tried to own it." I didn't say anything. I just reached over and held her hand. From then on, our relationship wasn't perfect, but it was honest. We set boundaries. We talked about things instead of yelling. She stopped asking for money and started asking how I was doing instead. For the first time, I felt like she saw me, not as a paycheck, not as a disappointment, but as her son. A year later, Kyle got out of prison. He didn't call. I didn't expect him to. But one night, Mom showed me a letter he'd sent her. It wasn't an apology, not really. More like a confession. He said he envied me, hated that I'd escaped the life he couldn't. "He's still angry," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "But maybe that's his way of grieving." She nodded and put the letter away. We never spoke of it again. Life slowly moved on. I got promoted at work. Mom started volunteering at a local shelter. She said it helped her feel useful again. I think it helped her heal every now and then. She'd look at me with this expression, half pride, half sadness. Like she was remembering all the years we lost to anger and misunderstanding. One night, as I was leaving her apartment, she said, "Ryan, I know I hurt you, but thank you for not giving up on me." I smiled. "You're my mom." I couldn't, even if I tried. Driving home that night, I thought about everything we'd been through. The lies, the fights, the silence, the slow rebuilding. It hit me that family isn't about perfection. It's about choice. The choice to forgive, even when it's undeserved. The choice to love, even when it's hard. Money tested us. Lies broke us. But forgiveness, that's what saved us. I still don't know if Kyle will ever find his way back. Maybe one day he will. Maybe not. But at least now, Mom and I aren't living in the past. And for the first time in years, I finally feel like home isn't a place. It's peace.